Hello and welcome to Meet the Fleet, a series of videos introducing you to the locomotives that run on the Brucington Railway. The SRV class, more commonly known as the Schools class, is a class of steam locomotive built by Richard Monsell for the Southern Railway. The class was a cut-down version of the Lord Nelson class, but also incorporated components from Ury and Monsell's LSWR/SR King Arthur class. It was the last locomotive in Britain to be designed with a 440 wheel arrangement and was the most powerful class of 440 ever produced in Europe. All 40 of the class were named after English public schools and were designed to provide a powerful class of intermediate express passenger locomotive on semi-fast services for lines which could cope with high axle loads, but some of which had short turntables. Because they use a King Arthur firebox rather than the square-topped Belpaire firebox used on the Lord Nelsons, the class could be used on lines with restricted loading gauge, and some of the best performance by the class was on a heavily restricted Tunbridge to Hastings line. The locomotives performed well from the beginning, but were subject to various minor modifications to improve their performance over the years. The class operated until 1961, when mass withdrawals took place and all had gone by December 1962. 3 examples are now preserved on heritage railways in Britain. By 1928, the Southern Railway was well served by large 460 express passenger locomotives, but there was an urgent need for a class to fulfill intermediate roles throughout the system. Monsell's previous attempt at developing his predecessor's L-class for this task had been proven a disappointment, and the Drummond D15 and L12 classes were approaching the end of their useful lives on these services. An entirely new secondary express passenger locomotive was required to operate over the main lines throughout the system, including those that had relatively short turntables. The introduction of the British Rail Class 201 diesel-electric multiple units to the Hastings route after 1957 and the completion of the electrification of the Southern Eastern Main Line in 1961 deprived the class of much of their work. Withdrawals began in January 1961, and the whole class had disappeared from service in December 1962. We hope you've enjoyed meeting Dover, and remember he can be seen upon request at any time. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon for another episode of Meet the Fleet.